In this video, I'm going to talk about something that affects pretty much everything we do, that is management. We are going to understand the art and the science of how things actually get done in the world. I want you to stop and think about something for a second. What's the real difference between a world-class orchestra creating a beautiful symphony and a dozen musicians just making a bunch of noise? Or what makes a hospital a place of healing instead of just a building filled with random doctors and fancy equipments? Well, the answer is coordination. Its purpose, the answer is management. And at its very core, it's this simple but really powerful idea from a pioneer in management thinking, Mary Parker Follett. Now look at that key phrase, through people. That's everything, right? Management isn't just about spreadsheets or technology. It's fundamentally about human beings working together to achieve something they couldn't do alone. Okay, so before we understand what managers actually do all day, we first have to get a handle on the basic principles they are aiming for. I mean, what does a win in management even look like? It really boils down to these two big ideas, effectiveness and efficiency. Think of it like this. Effectiveness is about choosing the right mountain to climb, doing the right things. Efficiency, on the other hand, is about climbing that mountain as smartly as possible, doing things right without wasting time, energy, or money. You see, great management isn't about picking one over the other, it's about being brilliant at both. So, how do managers actually pull that off? How do they balance those two big goals? Well, it turns out there's a kind of blueprint, a repeatable process that basically every manager uses, whether they are running a massive tech company or just a local coffee shop. Let's understand that blueprint now. First, you've got planning. This is where you set the destination and you draw the map to get there. Then comes organizing, where you build a car for the trip and figure out who sits where. Next is staffing. It's all about getting the right people in that car. Directing, well, that's the leadership, the person sitting at the steering. And finally, controlling. Controlling is all about looking at the dashboard, checking the GPS, and making sure you're still on the right road. Now, that 5-step blueprint is pretty much universal. But how a manager uses it and which parts they focus on really depends on where they sit in the organization. So let's take a look at how things change as you start climbing the management ladder. And here we're looking at the classic 3-level pyramid. Up at the top, you've got your C-suite executives. They are the ones looking out at the horizon, setting the big long-term vision for the whole company. In the middle, you have your department heads, the people who take that big vision and translate it into actual plans. And down at the base, you've got your frontline supervisors and junior managers, the ones who are in the trenches managing the day-to-day work with their teams and so on. Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting. The specific skill a manager needs to be successful change a lot depending on which level of that pyramid they are on. There are 3 core skills every single manager needs, but the recipe is totally different at each level. First, you've got technical skills. That's the nuts and bolts knowledge of how to do the actual job. Super important for that frontline manager. Then you have human skills, the ability to communicate, to listen, to motivate. That one, absolutely essential at every single level, no exceptions. And finally, there are conceptual skills, the ability to see the big picture, to understand how all the different parts of the organization fit together. This becomes the most critical skill for those top managers charting the course. I want you to think about a manager you know. I bet you can see this exact mix of skills in action right now. Alright, so that's the clean theoretical frame. But what does a manager's day actually look like? Let's be honest, it's really a neat, orderly process. It's usually a mix of emails, meetings, interruptions, and snap decisions. So let's switch gears from theory to the dynamic, sometimes chaotic reality of what managers do every single day. A researcher named Henry Mintzberg actually shadowed managers to see what they really did all day. And what he found was that their job is less about these formal functions and way more about constantly switching between different hats or roles. And he grouped these 10 distinct roles into three big categories. First up are the interpersonal roles. These are all about people. A manager is a figurehead when they hand out an Employee of the Month award. They are a leader when they are giving that pep talk before a huge deadline. Next, you have the informational roles. This is where the manager acts like the team's central nervous system for information. As a monitor, they are scanning industry news for threats and opportunities. As a disseminator, they are forwarding that must read email to their team. And as a spokesperson, they are standing up in a big meeting and presenting their team's awesome results to the higher ups. And finally, we have the decisional roles. This is where the manager has to make the tough calls. They are an entrepreneur when they champion a new, better way of doing things. They are a disturbance handler, basically a firefighter when something unexpected goes wrong. They are a resource allocator when they have to decide who gets the budget for a new project. And they are a negotiator when they are hammering out a deal with the supplier. The amazing part is a good manager juggles all 10 of these hats, sometimes in the span of a single hour. So, after going through all of this, the functions, the levels, the skills, and all those hats, what's the big takeaway? Why does any of this really matter, especially in the world we live today? You know, the legendary guru Peter Drucker really nailed it with this quote. Management isn't some boring administrative task. It's not just about keeping things neat and tidy. It's the engine, it's the spark, it's the life giving force that turns a pile of resources, people, money, ideas into actual results. Without it, nothing happens. And that has never ever been more true than it is right now. In this crazy, fast paced, competitive world, it's effective and efficient management that separates the companies that adapt and thrive from the ones that just tread water or worse, sink. At the end of the day, it's the ultimate competitive advantage, which kind of leaves us with one final big question to chew on. Is management a science with clear cut rules and formulas you can learn from a textbook? Or is it an art, something that relies on gut feelings, on experience, on a deep understanding of people? Well, the truth is, it's both. It's a science you have to learn and an art that you have to spend a lifetime trying to perfect. Thank you.